Let me tell you about Bruce. Bruce is not a real person. Bruce is a type of person. I've eventually met Bruce in varying degrees in almost every city I've lived in Japan. Bruce isn't very good looking in the United States. He wasn't particularly smart, but at least he got a degree. Bruce probably first came to Japan as a JET or another dispatch ALT program. Bruce realized after 3 to 5 years of this that he had no skills, but he also realized there was a class of women in Japan who would actually sleep with him. Not many more than the States, mind you, but some as better than none to Bruce. Bruce had no real skills, of course, so he had two options: take a shinsotsu job for basically no wages, or teach eikaiwa for slightly higher but still no wages. Bruce obviously picked eikaiwa, because Bruce did not want a job that actually took effort. Bruce married a Japanese woman who mostly just wanted half-foreign babies. Bruce and his wife now have 2 children. Bruce is completely incompetent in Japanese, though, so he is pretty much useless in their upbringing. He can't really help them with school, friends, etc., and he has no long-term work friends or partnerships. Bruce's wife speaks exclusively to him in English, and he works almost exclusively in English, and his boss may even berate him when he even tries to speak Japanese at work, because he's supposed to be teaching eikaiwa. So, he has never really had a need to learn Japanese. Bruce's wife has a much more filling career with actual friendships and decent wages. Bruce often feels emasculated by this. Bruce and his wife don't really get along, but it has been this way for a while. They haven't gotten along pretty much since around when Kid 2 was born. Bruce knows that his divorce means he absolutely isn't seeing his children anymore, because Japanese courts always side with the Japanese spouse. Bruce is hoping he can convince his kid to go stay with Grandpa and Grandma in his home country, to go to a middle school there, and hopes his kid will like it enough to stay. That way, Bruce can safely divorce and keep at least one of his children. Bruce's favorite bar is still the Hub, and he may even have met his wife there. And he doesn't like Japanese food, because he still can't read the menu after 15 years. Bruce is mad and bitter because he's mad and bitter at himself. He knows he has no real future in Japan. But he has no real future in his home country either, since his only skill is speaking a language everyone there does too. And there's no way he's convincing the wife to move to his country. Hey everyone, Chad here. That was the story of Bruce, made popular on Reddit, on a thread about why the people, or rather long-term expats, seem so miserable in Japan. It's pretty funny. And many people who live not only in Japan, but in other Asian countries, or China, Korea, probably have met someone like Bruce. But Bruce isn't just related to one job or one relationship. There's many people who become Bruce over time, and many people who end up hating Japan and wishing they could leave but never do. This brings me to the topic I really wanted to talk about today, which is people in Japan who stay in their bubble and never leave. And the key point of this story, I think, is never integrate or learn the language. It can be really difficult for anyone here, or anyone in any country that isn't their own, to get by at all without some degree of assimilation. That includes learning the language. If there's something I can give you, a piece of advice as someone who's lived here for many years, it's that learning Japanese, if you're intending to stay for more than a year or two, should be at the top of your priorities. You're not gonna be able to integrate or have a meaningful relationship with people unless you speak the language of the country. And it's the same wherever you go. Now, I'm not making this to berate anyone who works in Eikaiwa or who comes here to, spend a year abroad. There's plenty of programs meant for those people, and Eikaiwa is actually probably one of them that's more famous, where you can basically try to live and see what another culture's work and life and friends and nightlife is like. It's an amazing opportunity for especially people in their 20s. But even that, even saying it's an opportunity for people in their 20s can be a little bit berating. I know people who are in their 30s or 40s who've worked either ALT or JET or Eikaiwa jobs since they graduated college, and they love it. And there's nothing wrong with that. Finding satisfaction is up to the individual. If you find satisfaction in being an artist, and you've done environmental art for video games for 20 years, and people ask you, well, don't you want to move up in the company? Don't you want to take up a higher position, become either a lead artist or maybe a full game designer and design your own game? Many people might say no. They enjoy just creating the art and drawing and creating beautiful scenes for people to admire. It's the same for many jobs. Many engineers might feel that way. They don't want to take a higher position because they enjoy the design aspect. Many teachers should not be clowned on what they do because they don't want to move up. If you enjoy it, that's what you do. But Bruce doesn't enjoy it. That's the key thing. Bruce doesn't want to be here. Bruce got here because he never took control of his life. Bruce never made his decisions well, and he never thought things out, so he's just kind of coasting along. He got married and had kids because that's what you do. And he works in these jobs he hates because he needs a job, needs money. Bruce will never be happy, either in Japan or back in his home country. So my advice is, don't be Bruce. Find joy in whatever you find joy in, and don't let anyone else make fun of you or belittle you for it. Japan is quite an interesting place to live. It has some fantastic upsides, and there's some really frustrating things about it. But ultimately, happiness is for you to find, not for other people to find for you. Alright, well, this has been Chad. Good talking to you guys. Hope you're having a great week. Happy Tuesday, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.